Hey, thanks for joining today. This video is going to cover the Jefferson-Birmingham and Jefferson-Bessemer 2024 tax lien auctions. These are really just one county, but they are in two separate auctions, and they're divided for property tax reasons, but for most other purposes, it is just Jefferson County. But this is the Birmingham area, and we're going to talk a little bit about this new tax lien auction system that's we're 3 years into now, and we will take a deep dive into the auction and talk about how it compares to years past. So let's dive right in. So first, let's talk about what are the tax liens that they're selling. Every tax lien in different systems and counties and states come in different flavors and shapes and sizes, so it's important to know what you're bidding on and what you're buying. So the Jefferson County auctions are issuing tax liens under what's called the new system for Alabama. It's an auction that follows a bid down format. It's held online at govies.com in this case. Most of the new tax system tax lien auctions are held at govies.com, but not all. These auctions use a bid down interest format starting at 12% interest, and then the auctions will bid down the interest from there. And that starting bid is going to be set at the taxes owed plus any additional fees from the county. So the way this new system is different from the old system in the bidding process is that in the old system, if there were $1,000 owed in taxes, I would bid $1,000, you would bid $2,000, and with $3,000, $4,000, we would just bid up the amount. This new system, they would say $1,000 is the bid, but 12% interest is what we would be bidding down on. So I would bid 12%, you'd bid 11%, somebody else would bid 10%, but we're just bidding on $1,000. So the winner would just pay $1,000 and would be getting whatever interest rate they get from the bidding down process. And it is not uncommon to see a lot of properties in Alabama bid down to 0% interest. It's a real mystery, a real head scratcher, but people are willing to accept 0% interest on properties that are very likely to redeem. So that's a thing. These tax liens have a 3-year redemption period. And what you're buying is actually a 3-year foreclosable tax lien is what it's called. Now, the devil's in the details here because the old system, you could do so much with the tax deeds and the tax certificates we were buying. But now in this new one, this foreclosure really is the first chance you're going to get to do anything with the property. You can't touch it until the foreclosure is complete. And this tax foreclosure, if you want to perform a tax foreclosure on a property in the new system, you have to hold all tax liens on the property that have been issued. And just note that all tax liens might mean that having 3 tax liens is not enough to foreclose. It's just a little quirk about Alabama that it's important to know the difference for. So yes, 3-year foreclosable tax lien, so collecting 3 is enough if there are no other tax liens that you would need to foreclose. And a side note about the leftovers. So here we are in 2024. Will be the 3rd auction in the new system, the new tax lien system. And so far, Jefferson has not provided leftovers for sale over the counter. We know there are leftovers because the records are published, but every year we ask, and they do not sell them over the counter. Anything before 2022, you can buy over the counter still. They are still sitting there. There's over 10,000 in Jefferson-Birmingham alone. And those are in the old system. You're buying a tax deed at this point, and they're held by the state Department of Revenue, Alabama Department of Revenue. And I can show you more about that in our live demo momentarily here. But the new ones do not have over-the-counter as of today. After this auction, they could always change their mind. We will wait and see. So this is borrowed content from our previous video that was the Alabama auction preview. If you want to really get into comparing, contrasting, and pros and cons of the new system and the old system and understanding what you're buying, that Alabama 2024 auction preview video goes much deeper than this one, but I did borrow this next section to recap. The new system, if you're used to the old system, then the new system is going to be different for you because you can't perform an ejectment, take possession, or make any preservation improvements to the house if you're buying the new tax liens. If you're buying the old tax deeds, old tax certificates, you can take possession, perform ejectment, make preservation improvements. It's a whole different set of rules. The new ones, you really have to be hands off until you foreclose. The new tax liens start their interest rate bid down at 12%. The old ones had an 8% auction. So if you're like in the Lee County or Montgomery County this year, some of these counties in Alabama that still run their auctions in the old system and still issue tax lien certificates out of the old system, you're going to get a flat 8% prorated monthly on what you buy, and you'll be bidding that that bid value up. You're bidding the dollars up instead of the interest down if you're working out of that old system. We've mentioned earlier, most of the new auctions in the new system are online. Govies.com has the lion's share of those. We already mentioned leftovers don't go to the Alabama Department of Revenue to sell over the counter. Again, this is county by county. Some of them do, but for Jefferson County, they do not sell over the counter from the county. And let me clarify there, just I realize that's confusing. None of the new system counties put their leftovers with the Department of Revenue. If those counties choose to sell their leftover liens in the new system over the counter, they do it directly from the county, not the state's Department of Revenue. So if you wanted to buy leftover tax liens from Shelby or Mobile or Talladega, one of these counties that sells them over the counter, you're actually going to call the county and get your quote over the phone and purchase from the county. You will not go through the Department of Revenue on anything in the new system. All right, so now let's get down to what is really going on at these auctions. What are we seeing compared to previous years? So it is safe to say the 2024 tax lien auctions for the two Jefferson counties are the largest we've ever recorded. And this is for both. This is for Jefferson-Birmingham and Jefferson-Bessemer. And here's the numbers just to show you. Remember, we're going off of the original advertisement here. The difference is the original advertisement is going to be bigger than what goes to auction because some of them will redeem before the auction happens. But when we do our comparisons, we choose to start with what was advertised because it really gives us an idea on how the systems are working, and it's a consistent way to measure auctions. So Jefferson-Birmingham, you'll notice the 11,093 parcels is the largest we've ever seen. And since 2018, we only had one other year even over 10,000 parcels. And around 2018 through 2021, a 10,000 parcel advertisement would have been unheard of. I mean, that would be more than double your average year. Jefferson-Bessemer, it was pretty dramatic as well. I mean, we're looking at from 2018 through 2021, their average was below 2,000 parcels, and now we're over double that. So it draws into question a lot of thoughts about how effective the new system is at collecting taxes through tax delinquency, because if you have this many liens going to auction, it means that the tax investors are having to bail out the county for missing revenue. And we'll go over those missing revenue totals in a second, but before we get into that, a picture paints 1,000 words. We just looked at numbers on a table, but if you see, these are stacked bars that combine Jefferson-Birmingham and Jefferson-Bessemer. The dark green in the bar is Birmingham, the lighter green is Bessemer, but you can really see things step up in 2022 for a reason. Those 3 years are the first 3 years we've been in this new tax lien system. And again, it draws into question how effective this new tax lien system is for these counties. I have to qualify that. Some of the counties in Alabama do not see this type of dramatic increase year over year. So it really, the pattern, if I were speculating, is probably with larger counties, larger population. Maybe there's correlation with property values and things like that, or probably some other things that we've not measured. But we do know that we see dramatic increases year over year under the new system. So 2024 continued that trend. So since we're talking about delinquent taxes is what you're basically bidding these liens on, let's talk about how much lost tax revenue is represented in these auctions. So the total unpaid taxes in 2024 going to auction for Jefferson-Birmingham is around $19 million that I'm sure the county could use. and Jefferson-Bessemer an additional $5 million. Again, so these tax investors will actually be bailing out the counties and providing this revenue on behalf of the taxpayers that are not paying their taxes. So the combined total in 2024, you'll see, is $24 million, which is a 17% increase over 2023. So 17% increase in lost revenue potentially for the two counties combined. Remember, the auctions will raise some of this revenue back, but with the leftover liens and anything else that doesn't sell, that revenue will not be recovered. And let's see. So between the two Jefferson County auctions, let's talk about buildings and improvements versus vacant land. So 70% of the tax lien auction listings have buildings. That's across the two counties blended. So think about it, it's over 2/3 of the properties actually have buildings on them. Now, what we're going to just qualify here is that it's 10,000 plus properties with improvements, assessed improvements. It is most commonly a building. If I don't qualify that here, someone's going to reach out and say, oh, well, this property had a deck or a foundation that counted as an improvement and there was no house. So we'll just go ahead and say it is most commonly a building when we see improvement values. But 4,600 of these are unimproved vacant land. That's it's actually 30% of the listings. I rounded here, so 30% of the listings are unimproved vacant land. So the total auction value, which is the total value of the property going to auction for these liens. Remember, the property's not going to auction, the liens are going to auction, but the associated property value is $1.2 billion for Jefferson-Birmingham and $302 million for Jefferson-Bessemer. So as a tax investor, you could see that as an opportunity. Potentially, we're talking about $1.5 billion of property where we know some of it will never redeem and some of it will. We don't know which, but we'll talk in a minute about improving your chances to get property that won't redeem so that you can have a chance at foreclosing one day. The average property value, just a little breakdown. In Jefferson-Birmingham, $120K for the average property value, $70K in Jefferson-Bessemer. I thought that was interesting. At first I was going to put the number blended, but then I separated it out just because Jefferson is significantly higher this year in average property value. So now that we've talked about the numbers, the overview, the trends over the years, what we're going to do is I'm just going to jump in and give you a live demo of how to go through these auctions. And this part's unscripted. I'm actually just going to go through and we're going to play with Parcel Fair to take you through these auctions. And so this is parcelfair.com. But briefly, parcelfair.com, we have 20 states that we cover tax liens, tax deeds, and auctions and over-the-counters. We're always adding states, and so this is going to give you a chance to see me test drive this for you. Right now, here's where we are in the Alabama season. There's only one auction left in April, coming up April 30th. And you can see we've already completed a handful of auctions this year, all the way back to March. But May is really where we're going to see most of the auctions. A few will spill into June, but let's talk about what we're seeing here. May 2nd is going to be a huge day. Calhoun, Cherokee, Madison is where Huntsville is. Tuscaloosa, you've probably heard of. These are large-ish auctions, 1,000 properties or so in some of these, and then others just have hundreds of properties. Moving on down, Walker's a big one. Shelby's done. St. Clair is a big auction. And so you'll see a mixture here of just some larger auctions. Mobile that we covered in the videos here 2 weeks ago will be happening May 13th. And then May 14th brings us to the big day where Jefferson-Birmingham and Jefferson-Bessemer will have their auctions alongside some other significant counties. We have Talladega with a couple thousand. Dallas has 800. Macon, Randolph, Hale, and Geneva. So May 14th is a big day. I believe all 8 of those auctions are in Govies, and they usually stagger the times a little bit, but this is where your automatic bidding will come in handy because you can't be in 8 places at once. And funny side note there, Jefferson-Bessemer, Jefferson-Birmingham for many years had in-person auctions on the same day, and so you really did have to be in 2 places at the same time or send a proxy or a business partner or something else because you just couldn't bid in both auctions unless you somehow had 2 people or whatever to go handle that. So yeah, the auction season dwindles a bit after that, and we get into June. But if we want to take a look at Jefferson-Birmingham, Jefferson-Bessemer, in parcel fear, if you want to just view those on a map, you can click these links. If you want to see everything in the county, this first link will just dump everything over the counter, resellers, everything. The second one here is just the properties from this auction. If you're a list person and don't like maps, you can also go exact same options here to view them in a list. So what I'm going to do is something a little different. I've actually thrown all the properties on the table here, and we're looking at everything inside of Jefferson-Birmingham. Jefferson-Bessemer is the half on the south western side here that has no property showing. So let's zoom in on Jefferson-Birmingham, and we'll talk about Bessemer too. So as you can see, there's quite a bit of delinquency, years and years of tax delinquency going on here. The yellow outline properties are properties going to the tax lien auction at this point, the upcoming auction for May 14th. And the blue properties are things that you can buy from over-the-counter sources, whether that's a reseller, a land bank, or the Department of Revenue. We just put anything that's not at auction in that blue color for you, so you can visually distinguish between the two. So again, there are properties everywhere in the county. I mean, there's outlying areas that, like Hoover, that are quite wealthy, that you will still see unpaid taxes regardless. You even see some over-the-counter properties here regardless in Hoover. Let's switch over to satellite mode and zoom out. So this is a way for us to really get a look at the geography, some of the area. Leeds is a popular area on the edge of Birmingham. A lot of growth going on in Leeds. You can see a good mixture here of over-the-counter properties in blue as well as auction properties in yellow. So there's quite a bit available in the Leeds area. You notice this is some of the developing, you might call the edge of the bubble here. Some of these lots, vacant land out in the woods. So there are things to buy there. And just moving north here a little bit, and actually let's just move west back towards the city. So yeah, there's tons in the outlying areas. In fact, if your strategy is vacant land, large land, there's plenty of that. We're looking at 81 acres here, next door to 40 more acres. So, you know, if you're kind of playing helicopter mode here, that's how you might shop a little bit, just by the city you're looking inside of the county, Adamsville, Forestdale. If you're a downtown person, you could just target some of this area. This is an exciting area. We just had a stadium built, a Topgolf is next door to that, and this is really on the edge of where a lot of development's happening in Birmingham. And you can see there are quite a few lots going into the tax lien auction this year. Some of them are even houses like this one. Some of them are vacant lots. And if we keep moving a little bit north, this area where you see some construction going on, you can actually see in detail. We've been working on tearing this hospital down for as long as I can remember. It's been even before the construction truck showed up, there were other people tearing it down a piece at a time. So this is a vacant hospital that is finally being rebuilt and repurposed as a dense residential project. Caraway Hospital was the name of it. And you can see there was quite a bit of blight or just rot in the area where parking lots or just vacant lots that have just gone away. And there's still quite a bit of opportunity. I'll switch back to map view here so you can just get an idea of the lots outlined. Quite a bit of supply. You have the blue properties on the north end here that are over the counter, and then the yellow properties surrounding it. Those are going to be your tax liens available right now at the auction coming up. So, that was a lot of words for me just to say whatever area of town you're shopping in, you can shop using the map and the helicopter this way. But now I'm going to go through and we're going to talk about how to filter this list down. And if you've watched our videos, I always start at the top and work my way down, but I'm really tired of doing that. So today we're going to do an experiment. We're going to start at some of the bottom filters. We're going to avoid the unavailable, some of these advanced filters, but we're going to work with these filters at the bottom, and we're going to watch our number right here and see what happens as we filter these properties. So I always like to clear my filters to start with and make sure I'm looking at a fresh set of filters. So we're talking about Alabama, Jefferson-Birmingham. You can see Jefferson-Bessemer right beside it if we're going to try to do that later. But let's start with the owner location. I'm just going to go ahead and say, if you're shopping for tax liens and you're shopping where the owner lives in the same house, the odds of redemption are higher because the owner needs that house. This is a house they want to keep. They're living in it, and we know that the mailing address matches the property address. The mailing address for the tax bill is the property address. So this filter lets you say, why don't we look at out of city, or let's just go with out of state owners. And so I've cut the list from 22,000 down to 3,500. And so moving to my left, let's go with occupancy. But depending on your strategy, some people like vacant properties because it shows that there's a better chance of it not getting redeemed. You might have no one sitting in that house for quite a while, and it's just going to be sitting there waiting for you to foreclose on. Some people prefer occupied because it means somebody at least is living there, keeping it up, and it might give you an opportunity to work out a lease agreement with them if you were to make it all the way to foreclosure. Keep them in the house, whatever you can do to help them out and lease it back to them, rent it back to them. So again, occupied could imply that there's someone's taking care of the house. Depending on your strategy, let's just go with vacant today. We have 3,500 properties so far. Vacant takes it down to 536. So one important filter is the total value. I want to make sure that I'm not buying a ditch, I'm not buying something that's unbuildable or something that otherwise. So I'm going to start my total value at least at 20 grand. 20 grand will rule out so many things, and it cut our list in half again to 274. Taxes owed, let's say I'm on a budget. I want to do, I don't want to pay more than $1,000, but I want to pay at least $500 because it ties up enough money where the interest rate might be worth something. So $500 to $1,000 in my taxes owed filter gives me 121 properties. We just keep cutting this list further and further down. And I'm going to click go on that, but we're going to come back in a second here. So that really did rule out quite a few properties, both auction and over the counter. But on my right side, I can browse and see, for instance, this is an over-the-counter property. It's in blue. It's a tax deed from 2013. I can see my property report showing that it's vacant. I can see the valuations here on the right side, up to 45 grand. It's a 2-1 bed bath. It's 744 square feet, 0.17 acres. I can do a panorama view of the house in the neighborhood. So it's this house in this neighborhood. Whatever conclusions you need to draw about, is it look like there's development going on? Is it a neighborhood I want to own in? All that. And most importantly, there are two purchase options. So I know this is a tangent. We're not talking about the auction right now, but you could buy this property from the Birmingham Land Bank Authority, or you could buy the tax deed on this property from the Alabama Department of Revenue. And the steps are right here with these buttons. This is important because I'm going to show you the auction in a second and how it contrasts with that. Just moving down the page, we do have the owner is located in Utah, so we found an out-of-state owner, and we can verify that this address from the Postal Service is deliverable. We know that. On the right side, the last thing we're going to show you on this report is we have the property details, which we can click on this link and go straight to the county's property card, which tells us all the details, years of information, whatever other information we want to know about this property that's not in parcel fair. That takes us straight to that source. You don't even have to go look it up. It's just available at a click. We can get, there's all these county links actually are very useful, but I won't go through those right now. And there's other research links to help you if you want to track down the owner. There's obituary searches, skip trace services, comps for the market, and anything else about the local housing market. So there's a lot going on with that. And if I wanted to save this property, it looks like I already have in my shopping cart, I'm just going to go ahead and remove it. Let's say it's in my Jefferson shopping list. Now it's in a list for later. I can add notes and say, need to scout this property. Let's fix my spelling. So now I have a note tracked on it, and I could go on and on. I could add attachments, I could add documents, I could add photos, and I can even order scouting services here from our friends over at Anderson Realty. That was the blue button under the picture, order photos and videos. So that's what you can do with the property prospectively here. So now let's find one that's in the auction. I can see them again in helicopter mode here, satellite view, but I want to use my search filters. So just to recap, I've got out-of-state owners here. I have vacant properties, at least worth 20 grand, taxes owed between 500 and 1,000. Let's go ahead and set improvements. I didn't set that. That removes anything that's vacant land. There were only 5 in the list that were vacant land there. And inventories, I'm going to say upcoming auctions. Now this is going to take all the OTCs out, and that cut the list in half again. So we're down to 53 properties that meet my extremely picky search criteria. But here they are. So let's find this on the map and let's view the details. We can see it is a vacant property address with 1 tax lien available for $585. All of this meets my criteria so far. It's valued at $35,000, and it's a 3-1 with 1,300 square feet in the neighborhood of Oakwood. I've got the address here. I've got a street view. Remember the panorama view, satellite going on here. Now, just one thing to point out, I can look at the purchase options have changed, because now instead of an over-the-counter purchase option, I have the upcoming auction. And this is where I get the information, the date, the time, the location, taxes owed, the county phone number, and links to go check out this auction. Remember, we said the auction is at Govey's, so this will take you straight to Govey's. We are now looking at the list. They provide a little bit of information about a property. Not quite enough to make a full decision, but there's at least enough to get you sort of started here. So that's what Govey's provides on their site. And so these links will take you straight to that to register, to see the information, or view the list. So, yeah, this is a tax lien auction property that we're looking at, and it meets all those picky criteria that I put in. So that's how you save a ton of time with parcel fair. Is you're going to use these filters and be as restrictive or as liberal as you want to meet your strategy. So let's just flip these around a bit. Let's say I don't care about the owner's location. I still want vacant, value of at least $20,000. And I'm going to loosen up my taxes owed. You'll see why in a second. I'm going to take off my cap, so it takes that limit off. We're still going to do upcoming auctions, and I'm going to say vacant land this time. Okay, there's only 8. So I need to loosen something up. Let's take the occupancy off, because since it's vacant land, it really doesn't matter. So we have 354 now. So I've really just applied a couple filters here. Upcoming auctions with vacant land, $20,000 valuation, a minimum $500 owed in taxes. And I'm going to go ahead and say a minimum of, let's start with 10 acres. See where that takes us. 31 properties. Wow. Okay. So 31 properties that have 10 acres that you would be buying a lien on. We'll just click this first one. It's 11 acres. And it's really no different than how you would shop for these other properties. You're going to see the tax lien available here. Occupant status, since it's vacant land, doesn't matter. Here are the auction instructions. And we have a valuation here as well, $156,000 for this property. Unfortunately, the property is located behind this house, so everything here tells you it's land only. There's no improvements. So you just have to understand from the satellite photo and all your other clues that it's the land behind this house. That was Google's best shot at it. So let's zoom out and we'll just take a peek. Were there any other, of course, up here at the top of the county when we're getting to more rural areas, we can see some larger chunks of land. I think I clicked the exact same piece of land that I clicked earlier at 81 acres. So we'll move and find maybe a different one over here. This one looks like timber land, 120 acres of that. And what you see is this one tax lien strategy that you could consider is on the vacant land. There may be less competition. I think historically we could probably say the vacant land is less competitive. And 3 years on something that's timber property, you really, time is kind of on your side since you would want to harvest the trees in the future. So maybe if the timing's right and you do your homework, you could foreclose on a property and get the timber off of it. Do not cut the trees while you have a lien, though. You must foreclose before you do that. Just don't even try. Bad idea. Okay, so We've spent a lot of time in Jefferson-Birmingham. We're going to switch gears and go to Jefferson-Bessemer and clear my filters out. 7,000 properties. Remember, that's because we're looking at over-the-counter and auction properties together. So let's apply some of that same filter logic we just did. And we'll go quicker this time because you've seen it once. I want out-of-state owners, and I want vacant property. Well, we're already, we're already down to 100 parcels, so that really took a chunk out. So that might be low enough for me to just look at by itself. But remember, I want to go, let's look at just the auction. Now we're down to 47. That really took a chunk out. So 47 properties, and that really shocked me just now. I didn't realize it was going to go down that dramatically. So a lot of times it's a give and take when you're doing this. You don't know what one search filter is going to do. So you will find properties like this that meet your criteria. This is a 2-1 with 960 square feet. One tax lien available, and it's a vacant property. But I will always caution against, let's say, the vacant occupancy, since that changes so quickly, and since it's really based on the Postal Service's estimation. Let's take that off, and now we're looking at about 500 properties. We're still looking at out-of-state owners. Let's go ahead and set our minimum value at $20,000 again. That cut us down to 300. Let's say our taxes owed are 500 to 1,000, so I know what I'm going to be spending. That took us down to 85 properties. Let's take the top cap off. So we're back up to 272. That means there's some high tax properties here. So we're looking at upcoming auctions. Let's filter by improvements. That takes a few out. So let's run with that. 249 properties. And so again, we've always got the satellite mode where you can view top down and look at houses like this. And you can go look at the report right here and find out everything you want to know about the property. You got your county sources here too. But sometimes, and it may depend on your personality or just how meticulous you are, you might want to just view these in a list. And so on the right side where you see parcel results in blue over here, we have some options. If you're a spreadsheet person, go ahead and download those results to CSV spreadsheet. You can save them to a list and work the list later, but I'm going to start by viewing these results in a grid. So now that I've got the results in a grid, I can just take a look. I can sort by the amount due, which is the opening bid, which is for the auction. So I see this one has $81,000 in taxes that are putting the opening bid at $81,000. The total value is $5 million, and it's mostly building here. So let's just go see what a $5 million property looks like in Jefferson-Bessemer. It's we see the gates here. Let's click that panorama view and check it out this way. So it's this building back there in a well-developed area. This looks like an office park or industrial park maybe. So if I were giving you my honest personal assessment of this, I think it will be lower competition because not a lot of investors have $81,000 to put into one property. You might be able to get an interest rate that's decent on it, and what I mean is 6% to 12% in that range. It's possible. And you have a high likelihood of the owner redeeming because I don't know many companies that will let a $5 million property go, and I don't know many banks as well or other interested parties that would not foreclose on it or take it first before you could foreclose on it. So a property of this value, this appealing, and this nice of an area, you're really going to invest in properties like this if you're trying to get a good interest rate. Now that I've said that, there's always that lottery scale distant chance you could foreclose on a $5 million property, but I think you need to be prepared to consider your best case scenario as a nice interest on your $81,000. So that's how we would use the list, is to look at properties like that. I want to show you one last piece. Instead of viewing those results in a grid over here on the right side, I want to save my results to a new list, okay? So I've got a lot of lists here. I'm just going to go to the bottom and say create a new list. And I'm going to call it the Bessemer, I think there's one M, no, there's two M's. Shopping, nope, there's one M. Shopping list. So now I've created a Bessemer shopping list, okay? That list starts off with 249 properties because it saved my search results, all those weird criteria that I put in, it saved those results to my shopping list. And I can sort over here as well. And I'm going to go ahead and say, hey, you know what? I want to foreclose on properties and I don't want to type 81 grand for 3 years just for it to redeem. I'm going to remove that top property. And you know what? This next property valued at $3 million, I'm going to take it out too. And let's just move down the list. I can say maybe I don't want to, I want to buy liens on individual houses, not business owned, so I might cut out the LLCs. You know, if I recognize a name in here and don't want to be, you know, like Regions Bank, maybe I don't want to deal with Regions Bank, so I'm going to remove that one. So there's a lot of things you can do to whittle this list down to your strategy. Maybe you don't want to deal with heirs, and I see heirs, so I'm going to remove it. Maybe you, I'm trying to think of any other scenario here. Let's go by the acreage. Let's say some of the lots are, yeah. So we have some that are 0 acres here. Let's kill those. If the GIS doesn't have a map, let's take them out. Let's say you don't want to deal with maybe that tiny property at 0.05, 0.07. You know, you could have filtered these out earlier, but let's just remove them now. And let's go on the other end of the spectrum and say, I don't know, I'm just going to leave it at this. But all that to say, my shopping list, I've just trimmed it down to 235 parcels. So at some point, I can get this list really worked into shape into what I'm willing to bid on. And lastly, the final piece. Now that maybe I'm going to bid on all 235 of these properties, you can export to CSV and look at that if you want to see in a spreadsheet, but you can also export to the Govies format where you would place your bids. So you would click this button and basically download a spreadsheet. And once it opens, the auction ID has been provided, parcel ID, all this information for you. And basically, your min interest column way over here on the right side is where you could place your minimum interest bid. So remember, I don't want to go below 6% anywhere, so I'm just going to do that. And I'm going to just, let's make it easy. Boom, the whole spreadsheet, 6%. Maybe I want to change it on certain properties to 5%. Maybe if I know that the owner's not coming back, I might put my bid down to 4%, but that's getting kind of low. So yeah, that's how you would do a bulk bidding process and upload this spreadsheet to Govies. I won't get into how their system works because really their system, they provide videos, they provide a lot of training on uploading there, and I don't want to step on Govies' toes because frankly, they do a good job already. I don't think I can improve on their training. So a lot to cover in this video. Really learn how to make your bids on Govies, whether it's bulk or one at a time. It's great for you to take your strategies and figure out how these search filters can work for you. Both of these counties have tremendous opportunity. In fact, the whole state has a lot of properties in the supply. If you want to buy a lot of tax liens, it's possible you could take a pretty good pit stop in Alabama and pick up quite a few during our auction season here. So I know this was a lot of information. If you have questions, please reach out. You can hit us in the YouTube comments. You can hit our contact form on our website, which is here. I personally answer these emails, so I'm happy to respond to you there. And if you haven't tried Parcel Fair, it's a great tool that's going to save you a ton of time in all of these states. So lots of states in the system already and more being added every week. And if you like getting these videos, subscribe to the channel so you can know when get a notification when we release videos. And feel free to like the video too. It helps us out as well. So thanks for watching and best of luck in the auctions.